All right. So I'm going to walk you through the HuluOps dashboard. And the reason that I'm going to capture this moment in time is because we've reached a point of maturity within the application that it's probably worth just making a record of it. And so what you're looking at right now is the HuluOps dashboard. And so a little bit of history. The reason this was built was because there's a ton of contextual information that's helpful to not only operators, but to engineers around what they need to know about, right? So in the case of Hulu, key events are a huge part of our observation, right? The things we need to be aware of, and so we have a content operations team that's solely focused on managing, um, administering these key events. And so what you're looking at right now is the home screen, and this is, a key event. So this anybody that has access to Hulu Ops, which is anybody in the Hulu organization as well as the Disney organization, should have access to this. They can go to key events and they can actually see all of the key events. And I'll get into this a little bit more here soon. This is actually pulling from an internal API, and we'll get into that in just a second. This is actually our core experience. So if you were to think of this as Hulu's version of a Xbox status page, that's exactly what we were looking for here. Travis McCann, former product person at Hulu, had proposed this, and we actually put it into production. So every one of our services is tied to a core experience, and that core experience, obviously, are all of our customers, internal and external customers, and the core experience for those. It has been noted that many customers will not call Hulu and say, "I am not seeing the ads I expect," and that's true. However, our business might. All right, our business might actually come back and say, "Well, there's no ads playing," and we would definitely want that to happen. Data analytics, another example of someone who internally may not be seeing the data that they expect, but an external customer, would never actually escalate that. So ultimately, this is a good combination of viewer impacting metrics or experiences, along with business metrics or business concerns or experiences. So again, this is data that is formulated and modeled to produce this view in ServiceNow. This is part combination of ServiceNow, part combination of internal and external APIs. What you're looking at right here is our VX case count. So VX in the Hulu organization is viewer experience. And so what you're seeing in this particular time series data is call volume into our viewer experience team. So one, you could actually look at this as what is normal over a period of time. And then we see that at about 7:20 on 4/15, which is today, we have 268 cases, which is a pretty significant spike based on a previous baseline. And that's important to know. And we can deep dive into these VX call volumes. I'm not going to do that right now. Um, this is a calculation that's done from our internal API. So we've built an API called LOTR that is the API to rule them all. So if we find a source of data, whether that's a calendar, whether that's an external application, whether that's a tool, we're able to pull that in and treat LOTR as a single source of truth for many different sources of truth. And so this is based on incident data and then calculated in the browser to come up with a total incident free time, major incident free time. What you're looking at right here, again, going back to the LOTR reference that we just had, that is the upcoming change moratoriums as defined by the Disney Corporation. And so this is super important because change moratoriums mean that we are a little bit more stringent about software releases into production during these times. And we don't stop people from deploying during these times. We actually just make them very aware. And in the event that they want to actually deploy, we request that they get an access or an approval from a senior leader. What you're looking at down here are the recent major incidents. And, again, you had a major incident 23 days ago. So if you had a sign above your door, it would say it's been 23 days since our last incident. So this is just the homepage, and this is super informative for anybody that actually needs the contextual awareness of what's going on with the company. Is something down? Is something coming? Are we seeing a spike in call volume for our customers? What does my service look like? Where do I need to be aware of in the future? And what did the past look like? So, again, this is the culmination of a ton of different data sources that are projected in a single view here. So, I'm going to dive a little bit into these tabs. Ultimately, HuluOps is think about any tool that we build, we want to make sure that there's some visual aspect of it. So if we build a dependency tracker on its own is not necessarily helpful, but being able to visualize that and know that there's a single place to go to find that information was our goal. And so what you're looking at right now, these are recent events. So now notice these aren't incidents. These are just things that have happened regardless of the system that you're using, whether it's Terraform, Spinnaker, Donkey, our internal deployment pipeline, or a launch darkly flag, or in this particular case, a critical home as failure. What you're looking at, these are the changes. These are the things that are happening right now. List refreshes every 60 seconds. So at 12:09, we had a Spinnaker deployment by this particular service, and all of their service checks passed. Everything was green, so that's good. That's awesome. Infosphere, there was a deployment at 12:02. Again, we see this green check mark. They exist, but they're passing, right? So those internal service checks that the engineering teams have built for their particular service, there was a deployment. The alarms do exist, and they're all green. So at a glance, if any one of those things on the homepage actually fired, I would actually be able to see a history of everything that's happened in the last whatever. I think the time frame here is 14 days or 10 days. But this is as close to real time as anything that we have, and it's coming from all of our systems. Getting information about changes into our system, very, very, very simple. And you can engage with the ORE team here at Hulu to find out how you would get your service changes in there. You notice that this is only critical. If I uncheck this, you're going to see everything, right? So critical is important because teams will self-identify their service as critical on yellow pages, and we read that data, we use that data. But if I uncheck show only critical, I'm going to see this launch darkly change, right? There was a launch darkly change there. You get a little bit more visibility. So if something were failing right now and we suspected it was related to change, I could actually show all of these changes and get a pretty good idea of where to start our investigation. So I'm going to move on from this one. Knock incidents, super interesting because ultimately what you want is more or less a scorecard. Where are we? What's going on right now? Where are the chinks in the armor? And what you're looking at right now are just cards. These are cards that tell us the incidents, what they are, the affected services, how much time has elapsed on those, and when the next update can be expected. And as you can see on all of these, the next update is expected in the future. So it is noon on April 15th. All of these have a follow-up date on them. And the closer they get to that follow-up date, they're going to start blinking red so that you know an action needs to be taken from this. So our operators are actually using this page to kind of keep track of the things that need to be followed up on. What you're looking at right now, a bunch of Sub 3s and Sub 4s. And the way that we categorize that is Sub 3s are high priority bugs, Sub 4s are low priority bugs meant to be hit in the next sprint, where low priority bugs are meant to be hit in this sprint. And so ultimately, these are bugs. These are bugs that escaped to production. These are not necessarily service failures. These are things that need to be addressed and or fixed, but they are not necessarily cause for all hands on deck situation. So we have the concept of a knock, which is primarily focused on the back-end services that run Hulu and other services. But you also have Bach, which is primarily focused on signals, right? So the live streams coming from our partners, the play out of those streams in Hulu, the availability of certain programs or blackouts of certain programs. So they are hands on deck for controlling the experience around linear television that our viewers experience. So their view is very much the same thing. So you're going to see primarily channel issues in this view. So these are current channel or live stream issues that are in play. And you see that these are call letters for the channels that are currently experiencing an issue. Severity model is a little bit different on the Bach incidents. Everything is a sub 2. Very rarely do you see a sub 3, but this is a program start in markers. But this is either around the linear channel delivery or the decoration of that particular set of content. So the next thing I'm going to get into is VOD incidents. So if the knock is focused on the back end, the Bach is focused on the linear feeds and the linear channels. VOD or video on demand incidents are primarily focused on the things that are delivering video on demand, whether that's delivery of a VOD asset to us or delivery of a VOD asset to our customer or the decoration around that piece of content to anyone. So we have three categorizations of incidents. We have knock, Bach, and VOD. We all follow the exact same process. We all go through the same training, and obviously all report in the same place. So that's fantastic. You have three different ops teams, very differently focused, that are all reporting in a single pane of glass. I'm going to switch over to problems. Excuse me. I'm going to switch over to problems. So for every Sev 0 and Sev 1 incident, we automatically are going to do a post-incident review. The purpose of a post-incident review is to not only find the cause of failure, which is generally where the conversation starts, not where it ends. We try to focus on learning from failure, whether that's an operational response, limiting contributing factors, looking at scale, looking at process, communication. There's a lot of things that we look to deem from a problem management process. And this is probably one of our more mature processes that's externally available to most teams, right? Something you can actually see where we have a ton of process in the back end that we're doing. You never actually see that. This is very visible. And the reason I say it's very visible is A, it's here and everybody can access this page. But secondly, because it is a partnership across every engineering team to focus on what went wrong and how everyone can learn from that particular failure. And so in this particular case, we have incident 19039 BPF spike for iStream Planet streams. You actually have a failure upstream of you. iStream Planet had an issue. One would think, how do we learn from a failure of an upstream partner? It's their fault. If you do stereotypical root cause analysis, we could assume that at this point, ISP failed, iStream Planet failed, and there's probably not much opportunity for us. But you would be wrong, because there's a lot of learnings from that, and how to fail away from failure, how to fall back from failure, how to architect the applications and services to account for failure more often. And at the end of the day, we're going to post a post-incident review that literally everybody who has access to this page has access to see. And so this is the write-up around this particular incident. So we're going to give you a timeline. The timeline's very brief. We're going to give you the customer and Hulu impact. And this is important because customer impact, they can't watch the content that they want, but what is the monetary hit to Hulu, and what does that look like from the perspective of the business? Root cause and contributing factors. Root cause, again, is kind of where we start the conversation. Once we know what failed, we can actually start breaking down how how it didn't happen before, why hasn't it happened before, how have we been lucky in not having this happen before, but also where are the opportunities to improve the services, improve our response to failure. And we publish this to everyone, so anyone can actually read this. At the bottom, we're going to capture problems. These individual problem tickets actually go back to the service owners themselves. So for the most part, you're going to have tasks that are driven by the service teams, and service teams in this particular case could be ops teams, it could be engineering teams, it could be business teams, actually. But we're looking at some of the takeaways that came out of this. Three is actually few. We have several incidents where there are multiple tasks that come out of that, and this might be a really good one. So these are the key open action items, and in this particular case, there are 6 outstanding issues of possibilities of improvement. And again, we publish that out to the entire organization. Anyone can access this page. Anyone can read about the post-incident review. Anyone it's a level of transparency that we want to encourage so that other people can read about failure, do some incident analysis, and look for the gaps in what they're doing. Currently, this is only showing open incidents. It is showing all severities. And I can group this by many different cohorts. So I could actually look at the outstanding tickets for Billy Sue. I can look for the outstanding tickets for David Barron, Dick Brookins, UA. I can break this out by VP. Every Monday at 9 a.m., this report goes out to all VPs so that they understand what's outstanding from previous failure to capitalize on the opportunity of failure. So problem management, you have grouped by priority, support groups, so on and so forth. But this is all controlled by a single person. He is our resiliency advocacy engineer, or I'm sorry, resiliency advocate. And he essentially partners to find opportunities to improve the service through failure or degradation. This is the accumulation of all of his work, partnership, and again, we approach post-incident reviews from a no-blame solution. Complex systems are complex; they will break, and so expecting someone to account for something that no one thought was possible is very difficult. And we should all think like that, but failures do happen, and we should anticipate them, and we should learn from them. We've added some functionality to HuluOps, which is interesting in a lot of different ways because it's more contextual and it does provide a tool to engineers that they may find helpful. So in this particular case, what we are doing is letting people know that certificates that they have are expiring soon. And there's a communication process around this that would actually email someone and say, this is expiring or about to. And as you can see, like almost all of our services follow this naming nomenclature, the wild card for prod.hulu.com. So this is going to expire May 5th in 20 days. And we cannot automatically renew. If we can automatically renew, we will automatically renew this and then put it on the server itself. So this would be of concern to me if this certificate actually expired. But this is more contextual information for those who maintain certificates. VX context. So one of the things that's really, really interesting about my team is because we kind of play the air traffic control center between our customers, the viewer experience team that's being contacted by our customers, and the engineering team. In a traditional ITIL sense, we are the service desk. And while I hate that nomenclature, this kind of proves it, right? So if something is driving calls to the VX call center, what you want to be aware of is that call center driver is likely related to a service failure or degradation. And so it can be an early, in lieu of the golden signal that told us that something was broken, it can be a good signal that something unexpected is happening or that we are experiencing an operational surprise. And so if I'm looking at the last 7 days, I can see that there are 75 open issues. There have been 4,300 contacts. I can see how many live chats, how many calls, how many social support cases, and then I can get a breakdown of all of the most outstanding issues currently coming into the VX organization or the viewer experience or customer care organization. So this is that contextual awareness of, in the world of ops, how big is this problem? But it's also helpful to the engineers to answer the same question, how big is this problem? And so we can surmise that if we see a sudden uptick in customer contacts 100 times greater than what we would normally see, that the problem is much bigger than we think it is, right? So it's really contextual information for us to be able to size up the size of the problem. So Tracer, we're going to get into a little bit, but Tracer is our version of a dependency mapping. It's a set of it's a complicated system of levers and pulleys, and we are fine-tuning it right now, but we're going to show you this in a little bit. This is just the alarms, things that appear to be failing as it relates to service dependency. While this is not entirely accurate, at this point in time, it's not because it's not functional, it's because the monitoring that's associated with these services is a little bit off in its severity and or priority. So I've taken you through the HuluOps dashboard homepage. I've taken you through Monitor. I'm going to probably skip a lot of this because I feel like it's information you can find on your own, make sense of without a ton of explanation. But this is like the service history. This is our org-wide availability. We weigh availability by major incident free time, not necessarily the performance or the P99 aspect of your particular service or the service as a whole. So this is time where there was not a Sev 0 or a Sev 1 incident currently in play. In the year of 2021, we have not had a Sev 0, so we do not have we have a 100% availability as far as Sev 0 incidents or complete and total outages is concerned. However, in the same period, we have Sev 1s, we have 7, and our mean time to detect during that time, or our average time to know that there is an issue, is 6 minutes. And you know, the goal would be to be much better than that. On the flip side of that, that is much better than it has been in the past. We've seen detection be north of 45 minutes. So the fact that our observability efforts have actually put us in a situation where we find these things early is great. The mean time to mitigate, or the average time to fix this issue so that the customer is unaware of the problem, is 56 minutes, and this is down 39% from a year ago, or yeah, the same period of time a year ago, where it used to take about an hour and 31 minutes. It's taken us 56 minutes. Look, this is a metric that we measure our success by, and the reason we measure our success by that is because our time to engage the people that are responsible for solving problems with their service, the ability to communicate to the right people and get them engaged, is our job. And so as we get better than at that, the mitigation times have increased. And I think as service owners have gotten used to having an incident response team, they've gotten used to responding to them. They've also gotten better at managing their services, as opposed to when it was new and not everybody was fully aware of what the services were doing, what their dependencies were. So it's just maturity, right? The longer something exists, the more knowledge is accumulated and applied during an incident. If you look at our core experience, this is measured, year to date. And so you see all of the same core experiences. And then you see the total uptime. So you can definitely see where the Sev 1 incidents have decreased our live playback metrics by 4 hours and 10 minutes, which is dramatic. I mean, it is a very long time. With that said, with the live playback stuff, it's a little bit different, right? We have fallback options or failover options for a significant number of these channels. And so this tells you that there is an issue and a stability issue with upstream dependencies and delivery of live channels, not necessarily that there's a problem on our side. Where we see, and not to pass the buck, but certainly we are dependent on our partners to deliver a stream to us reliably, as much as we are to reliably deliver it to our customers. And so live playback is at 100%, and you have total uptime at 99.83. Not great, but significant improvement over the previous year. I'm going to take you to service availability. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this. This is where you can actually choose your team. So in my particular case, I am ORE, and that's core reliability. So I'm going to look at the Ops Reliability Engineering Organization. So they have not had a Sev 0 or a Sev 1 incident. These are the services that they own. If I were a core service, I would actually see this, right? I would see that improvement over time. And so for grins, we will change this and we will say ads. Let's see, we'll say ad platform. Again, maybe a very bad example. Don't know. We'll see. Okay, we have no Sev 0s, no Sev, you know what? Let's include Sev 3s and Sev 4s. And now you get a real breakout. So the mean time to detect for ad issues, the average time is 2 days and 1 hour. It's very long. But these are Sev 3 and Sev 4 incidents, which means low priority, high priority bugs. The mean time to mitigate, 6 days. Sorry, the mean time to mitigate, or average time to release or relieve customer pressure, 6 days, 8 hours. You can see there's a significant increase in the MTTD, MTTR, and MTTM. So there's a total number of 3 incidents. The NOC was not able to detect these incidents because they didn't receive any. They didn't receive a signal that something was wrong. And so most likely these were customer reported. We can actually get down into this. So this big incident was the ad platform database. You have Fonzie and Vault. One was related to a bug, one related to a change, and one related to a deployment. So you can get a little breakdown on your service or your team. And this is all pulling from Yellow Pages. One of the things that's interesting about moving to the public cloud is the AWS cost. And so Cost Explorer is a tool that they offer, but we worked internally with the DevX organization to start visualizing the cost of individual services. So the HuluOps dashboard is a good example of one of the things that you would probably be interested in seeing, which is the Inc. dashboard. Let's see what the total cost of running this particular service is, the service that you're on right now. Yeah, so nothing. I highly doubt that's true, but we can actually look at different parts of this. So this is the incident management team. I should probably go here. So if I'm looking at ORE, which has a significant amount of infrastructure, I'm sorry, I'm wrong. I'm going to skip ahead. So this is looking at HuluOps dashboard and the total cost of that. And this is from 3/1 to 4/17, so about a 6 week period, and you have Amazon Elastic or EC2, $1,200. Elastic load balancing, 177. So the total cost of running this dashboard that you're looking at is fairly minimal. We probably would have spent that on napkins in the office if we were in the office. So this is just a breakdown. The default view is by service, the services that you're attached to as a service owner. You will not be able to see the total cost of services that do not belong to you unless you have access and are included in the operator group for that particular service. So the NOC actually does a lot of work to support different teams. And so if you think of each team that builds or deploys or architects a service that is used by other service owners, and when I think of this, I think primarily a DevX organization, our developer experience team. They build a tool like Mariner or Spinnaker, and then they release it to the wider organization, the greater tech organization to use. Unfortunately, as part of that, you don't just build it and release it and have customers use it. It doesn't work that way. There are support requests. There are misunderstandings about configuration. There are things that come back. And so we worked with the DevX organization to build Cloud Request, which was a way to categorize consistent support requests so that we could actually view them as automation candidates or develop a better workflow that allowed people to self-service those issues or to record them so that those teams could take advantage of that. So what you're looking at right now are the number of cloud requests that come in through CloudBot, which is a Slack bot. 66 of them, and this is March 1st to today, so about a 2 month period. 66 of them are actually going to the app team, the cloud engineering team, cloud security team, build and deploy team, network engineering, DBA team, and then other. And other is kind of meant to be that catch-all, which says it doesn't necessarily fit into this particular categorization bucket, but it is an opportunity to put it into a categorization bucket. So if you're looking for opportunity on the request and categorization, this is where you would go and look at where should this actually be? Where should this request be going? Who does it belong to? Anytime other is selected, the assumption on my part is that people do not know who that request goes to, which is interesting, right? Being able to record that and look at that as an opportunity for an improvement is amazing. There's a lot of stuff that's going on behind the scenes here, but I think it's important to notice that those numbers are related to ServiceNow. However, at the time that these requests are made in ServiceNow, there's a Jira ticket cut and assigned in that team's particular Jira instance or Jira project. So the intake is uniform, structured, but the output for where this work gets done is not, right? It fits the specific need of that team's Jira project. So this is interesting, just from the concept of if you're going to do something and you're going to automate something, you should also measure its effectiveness and then look for opportunities to improve. So you're creating your own feedback loop here. I'm going to jump into support tickets real quick. So support bot is something that we built, which is an extensible bot that allows any team to create their own Slack bot based on their own workflow rather than the NOC or the prod ops team determining what your workflow should be. We built a process where you could create your own YAML file and leverage Jira, ServiceNow, all of those different tools and build your own bot. You could automatically reply to different requests. You could automatically execute tasks against them. You could create tickets here. You could create tickets there. It is completely extensible based on the team. And this is the metrics that are coming out of that. So the total number of requests coming through support bot. And I believe this is actually just the last month. 115 total requests, 90 closed tickets. The average time to respond, not calculating, not sure why. We'll figure that out. Average time to resolve 1 day, 4 hours. You can actually see where all of these tickets are going into. So you can see the buckets that are going into it. Terraform support, Mariner support, Jenkins support. Really interesting stuff here. And we're breaking it down, right? I can actually see that the Moto team has onboarded with SupportBot. They've had 6 requests for Wayfinder, and they've had 11 for Content Portal. It's awesome. The average time to resolve, and then you can actually see the tasks that are associated with this. So someone's asking for Dodgeball access to add apps. Cool. Here's that request. It's a medium priority. Here's who it's assigned to. Reported by this person, so we actually know who's requesting that access. And these are things that are just the ongoing administration of services and tools and support for those tools. And we want to make sure that we're inputting these in a way that can be measured. I'm going to show you very quickly the live TV or the partners dashboard. We have the concept of making some parts of the HuluOps dashboard available to our partners. This is what this is. So what you're looking at is the live TV partners dashboard that is available to every single one of our external linear TV partners and locked down only to their company. So if I work at CBS and I get a link to the partners dashboard, I only see CBS. If I work at NBC, Disney, Fox, Turner, SyncBack, DSS, iStream Planet, I only have access to that view. So I can look at the overall health and delivery of my signals to Hulu as the playout partner. So I'm going to go back. So I've taken you through Analyze. Let's go into Discover real quick. This should go much faster, and you should all feel comfortable skipping around throughout this demonstration. So what you're looking at right now is Discover at Hulu. So imagine every data source that you use to find data, whether that's Wiki, whether that's Huluverse, whether that's GitHub repos, whatever that is, doesn't matter. What we've done is we've created an index that's essentially looking across all of those particular services, and we allow you to search all of them in a single query. This also works for infrastructure. So if you have an IP address, DNS name, so on and so forth, you can search for it in this in Discover, and you're going to get a runbook. You're going to get an understanding of that particular service. You're going to get a ton of information that you might find very helpful. So I'm going to do a search for Yellow Pages. It's one of the things that we talked about as an internal service that we are highly dependent on. So just by searching Yellow Pages, I'm going to get a return from the DevX Confluence instance, the Confluence, proper. I'm also looking at something that I posted in September on Huluverse, which is awesome, right? Like you're actually even looking at Huluverse, so you can imagine how this would be helpful if you were looking for services that our HR partners offer us. If you were looking for better understanding around dental insurance, you could see that by using this search, you would be searching Yellow Pages as well. I think that's super important, and I think we can all agree that Wiki search sometimes is a bit wonky, and so being able to index that page and search it yourself is very helpful. I can actually look at the services. I can look at the GitHub repos. I can look at the ServiceNow knowledge bases that exist for my team. I can also look at Minerva. And so looking at all of these different sources of truth from a single search, highly powerful. This is the most used page on HuluOps dashboard aside from our calendar, which I'll show you shortly. So I don't want to spend a lot more time on this. Everybody understands search. Everybody gets the sources that we are searching through. I'm going to take you to key linear events. Key linear events, very interesting, right? We do not maintain a master calendar. We maintain a source of truth and we ingest every calendar we know about. And so the question I get most often, where is this data coming from? It's coming from our EPG based on a rule set. It's coming from our internal partners, whether that be marketing, launch, Disney launches. Doesn't matter, right? It doesn't, to us, it does not matter. Someone else is maintaining a calendar that is of importance to them and they believe is important to the company and the business. They can give that to us and we will populate that calendar in line with all of those other events and provide contextual awareness to the engineering and operations teams. That's all we're doing. What you're looking at right now, we created the concept of a star bot. So in the content portal, if I say that something is important, I can click a button that puts a star on that piece of content. But we've also created a automation piece to this that actually looks for commonality between other key linear events. We believe that NBA basketball is generally a key linear event, and so we surface those events in a way that says, hey, this is probably going to be a key event. Why don't you go review it? And this is all done by our content partner management team, our digital supply chain ops team. Anybody that has access to the content portal could actually say that something is important. I'm going to take you into Tracer. One of the things that we tried to solve for was what do dependencies look like at Hulu? And ultimately, we all have some idea that this service depends on this service, but what happens in the ops world is you get an email from AWS and it says S3 is going down for maintenance in the East region between 12 and 2. You know, please be aware of this, or certificates being changed. They're not common, but what is common is what I'm about to say. As a service owner, I know that I have a dependency on S3. Do I fully understand that I am in that particular region or how that's used or if the certificate change applies to me? Understanding your dependencies outside of just the dependencies that you're building, but understanding that you are dependent on AWS or DNS globally is super important. With that said, you can hit Tracer and search for your service. And if I search for, let's say, Rundeck, which happens to be a tool that lies on our team. So I'm going to hit Rundeck. And what I'm going to get from this is I am going to get a list of all of the things that I have a dependency on. I have a dependency on all of this. And you can see that is phenomenal. I see AWS SQS up here. I see Elasticache. Man, I mean, this is a lot of dependencies. So if Homez were down, well, Rundeck's probably going to have a problem with pulling anything from Homez or Doppler. But if I go to clients, I actually see what's pulling data from me. So not only am I impacted by others' degradation, but because I have clients, they're also impacted by that degradation. So Homez, CloudBot, BachBot, Inkbot, all of them use Rundeck. And so if Rundeck's not able to run its jobs, then Inkbot's probably not going to be able to run its jobs, so on and so forth. So this is dependency mapping. I won't get into how this is actually accomplished. It's a much more technical conversation, probably not great for this. There are things that have to exist. You have to exist in Yellow Pages. You actually have to have some software installed. So Pixie is a prerequisite. And if you're in Datadog and Homez and or New Relic, that's what's creating this green around this. So we are looking up Yellow Pages IDs, drawing traffic patterns, and then determining whether the service itself is failing in any part of the monitoring system, regardless of whether it's something we're looking at or not. And so it's a holistic view of the services. So think of this as a giant accumulation of all of the data around services that is scrapable, consumable, and portrayed in a single view. Pretty cool. Ask Hulu. I'm not sure what happened to Ask. I haven't heard a lot about it lately, so we'll just skip it. But it was meant to be a complement to uh, support requests in Slack. We're almost there, folks. Hang with me. You've already seen change moratoriums. You've already seen a lot of this. This is the calendar. This is a combination of about 30 different calendars at this point, and it's dynamic. But at any given day, on any given day, any time period of day, you could actually go into this service. You could view all of the upcoming events. So to give you some idea, what's in pink are scheduled maintenances that we've entered into ServiceNow in the Ops Center. What you're seeing in orange are the scheduled events that are coming out of the EPG. And this one, I'm not actually even sure where this is coming from, but based on a color scheme, looks like it's a Disney launch, maybe? Yes. So it's related to a Disney calendar that we're publishing. Again, I don't know much about that particular calendar, but what I do know is it's a source of data for us that can inform the engineering and ops teams that it is taking place. And so these are uh, launches. So these are Hulu launches. You can tell by the color. Skip intro coming to Android. Price increase for Disney Plus. Fastly maintenance. That might be of particular importance to us because it is a certificate maintenance. Um, yeah, ESPN Plus. Star Wars: The Bad Batch launch. There's a ton of information that you would want to know about, right? And I just changed it to the agenda view. You also have all of this, right? You can break it down by day. Well, so this is interesting, but I have no idea how important this is. How important is the Cleveland Indians at the Chicago White Sox? Well, last night there was a no-hitter. Might have been important last night, unexpectedly. The White Sox had a no-hitter. But if you go to Change Moratoriums, you're going to see what's upcoming. Simple page, just lets you know, hey, these things are coming. But if I hit the deployment risk calculator, I can say I am about to deploy a run deck based on my service name. So this is not a critical service. I have had no Sev 0 or Sev 1 incidents in the last 30 days. My average mitigation time, since I haven't had any incidents, 0 minutes. I'm going to take that and I'm going to assign a risk factor to it. But then I'm going to take the time of the day, the things that are actually going on right now, and I'm going to add those. So right now, even though I get zero risk up here, I'm a pretty good, as far as a error budget, I'm pretty good. My error budget, I'm kind of set right here. However, there's a 60% risk, and that's coming from the overlapping key event. So that Indians versus White Sox game, and then the 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. added an additional 15% risk. Risk is relative to the fact that if things were to go wrong, it would be impactful to our customers. That's the assumption we're making here, and this is based on a best guess. We're not, trying to determine whether you think this is important. That's why we're giving you a risk factor, and we're publicly telling you what the variables are that's coming up with that risk factor. You can still deploy. You just might want to wait. So what if I said, all right, man, like that's a little bit too iffy for me. I don't feel comfortable doing it. What if I change my deployment to 11? Well, guess what? It's a pretty good window, 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. It's very low, right? So it's 15%. It actually doesn't get any lower than that. So you should be good, right? There's an inherent risk here. So because it's a false, it's +5. If it was true, then it's more. And then you have the 10% risk. That's as low as you can get. This is a really good time. And you can play with this, right? So if you were thinking about deploying tomorrow, if I wanted to deploy at 10, 9, right? 9 gets into prime time still on the West Coast, and so your risk matrix or your risk profile increases. The rest is pretty simple. Look, I'm going to show you this real quick and just run through it, but we're at stopping point. So Hulu's best practices, we have none. That's why this page doesn't load. No, it's just taking a minute. It's the tools that we use, right? So links to Big Panda, explanations of those things, Big Panda, ServiceNow. They're just cheating pages. If you are interested in workday groups, this tool in particular is used for um, this tool in particular is used for managing employees outside of Workday. So this is actually pulling in the API data from Workday that um, gives me some information about the hierarchy. And uh, the IT services team uses this tool. And the reason that they use this tool is to administer onboarding and offboarding. Okay. If you have a request of the ORE team, the you can hit up the create link here, and you can start a request. We will build something for you. We will make it cool. I'm not going to go into all of that. If I go back under plan, I think that's it, right? So create, if you have a request for us, you can hit it there. Um, First come, first served, level of effort, small to large. It's just like you guys do. So priority based on the need, and then we move very fast. And we're happy to partner with anyone who happens to be watching this. And I really, really hope that you all found something here that excited you and you felt like you could use it in your workflow or consider it in your operational maturity journey. And if not, there's something that you didn't find here, totally cool too. Happy to partner with you to build the thing that you're thinking of. So, with that said, that's it for the HuluOps dashboard. Thanks.